Well, I want to look even further ahead because Dave mentioned at the start of this that they can't make a move at the deadline that is going to mess them up for this summer, right? And here are the notable free agents for the Lakers after this season. The biggest question mark, of course, Dennis Schroder, who was traded to LA just for this season. Dave, what do the Lakers hope to do with him?
I mean, there's already been discussions, Rachel, between his representative, Alex Saratzis, and the Lakers about trying to find an extension for, a 27-year-old bright young point guard, someone who is ascending at the same age range as Anthony Davis, some guy who plays on both ends. But the question mark for the Lakers is, do you want to risk going to free agency and potentially losing him?
Right.
Or the other risk is paying him beforehand to lock him up, but then what if he doesn't perform in the playoffs the way you hope to? And now you are tied to this player. I mean, it reminds me of the situation a couple years ago with the Milwaukee Bucks and Eric Bledsoe. Bledsoe, it was good for Milwaukee in terms of getting him at a market value that was perceived lower than what he could have gotten if he went to free agency. But then he didn't have a strong postseason, and he is no longer a Buck. That could be the worst case scenario for the Lakers if they do go forward. But, all things considered, Brian Windhorst wrote a really good story a couple weeks ago about what the Lakers' salary cap situation could look like with luxury tax. If they can get a discount on Schroder by signing him now versus having him taste the waters in free agency, that could be the best bet when it comes to the wallet.
Yeah, to me, there's a distinction between Dennis Schroder and Eric Bledsoe. Dennis Schroder's been in the playoffs a lot, and he's not showing any of that sort of volatility. Like, he's the same guy in the playoffs he is in the regular season, which is a good, solid player. I don't think you have to worry about him underperforming in the playoffs. And like Dave said, you don't make a trade for Dennis Schroder when you have LeBron James nearing the end of his prime, if not past the end of his prime, really. Anthony Davis, your title window is now. You trade for him to bring him back. To me, the complicated questions are Talen Horton-Tucker and Alex Caruso in a market with way more cap space than star players or even sort of sub-star players. Those guys are good, and they're going to get a lot of interest, and Talen Horton-Tucker has solidified himself right now as a key member of the Lakers rotation. They've even played about point guard here or there the last couple of games with guys missing. I think those guys, when you look at their tax situation, and look, no one's going to cry for the Buss family about the tax bill and all that, but let's be realistic. If they have to pay a lot for Schroder, which they will, I think one of those guys may be on a different team next year. We'll see.
I know one thing. Look, they call Dennis Schroder Dennis the Menace for a reason. He is a problem on the court. He is one of the few guys that pick up 94 feet defensively. LeBron James loved his tenacity. He loved the edge and the spirit that he plays with. And last year, he was the runner-up for Sixth Man of the Year, averaging almost 20 points a game. So he's still in his prime. He's going to be in his prime in the next 5 years, still for the next 5 years. I think the Lakers get something done and get something done early. You don't want him to hit the free agency market. For us, Talen Horton-Tucker, I think the Lakers got to do everything in their power to keep him. I know everyone around the league loves this kid. His ceiling is very, very high. Sadly to say, but Alex Caruso, who is a fan favorite, he's one of my favorite, he's probably going to walk. But you got to do everything in your power, if I'm the Los Angeles Lakers, to lock in Dennis Schroder and keep Talen Horton-Tucker. He's a young stud, and his future is very, very bright.
Yeah, Perk, the Lakers love Talen Horton-Tucker. He's a guy who they were basically able to discover in the draft. He didn't even do a private workout for the Lakers. They bought a pick from the Magic, be able to get him in the second round. Last year, played sparingly. Last night was only his 41st game of his career. He puts up 18 points, 10 assists. Kyle Kuzma said he's probably the second or third best player on our team at driving and getting into the paint, and he has the know-withal to be able to find open shooters, or he can finish with both hands around the rim, the long length, bright, young work ethic, just a guy they love, and they'd love to lock up.
Yeah, and look, we didn't talk about that much about the Laker game from last night. Obviously, it turned into a blowout. But just for the people, Dave, what did Kyle Kuzma say happened to him on that technical free throw where he shot an air ball?
there was an earthquake. There's an earthquake.
There you go.
Watch out,
so
everybody.
Apparently that's an explanation if you want to know about the notable thing that happened in that game. Hey, it's, what are you going to do? Dave, thank you so much for joining us.
Great to
we
see
can
you.
do the local news later if we want to. We'll be working on that here in this studio. I'm so happy to have people in the studio. Director Kathy's going to have to deal with me all day. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.